Listen!
Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat, IGN's Nintendo podcast. My name is Philip Mewson, and coming up on Nintendo Voice Chat, we have a great show for you guys. It's the first show of the year, and I'm really excited. Nintendo's already breaking records, apparently, in the news, as well as a proclaimed or an assumed January Direct coming up. We're going to be talking about that, as well as a few mystery titles showing up on Amazon. But before we get into all of that stuff, let me just quickly introduce the panel. Over here to my right, I'm joined with none other than Daemon Hatfield. What's going on, Daemon?
What's up, everybody?
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
And right over here to my left, we have Brian Altano.
What's up?
And what's going on,
You
Max?
back to it slowly for the
How's it going?
Just
Come back, Brian.
Yeah, so we've got two regulars missing. Obviously, Pear is out. Damon's sitting in for him, and Zach is out as well. Thank you guys for joining us last minute. Really appreciate that. But before we get into the show, I've been wondering, since I've been back for the last couple of days, what have you guys been doing on your break? What have you been playing on your breaks?
Everyone's looking over here. I've been playing a lot of the Champions Ballad DLC for Breath of the Wild.
Oh, nice.
yes.
It's totally got me back into the game because I beat Ganon back in like March of last year, and then I messed around a little bit with the first pack of DLC, but for the most part, I didn't revisit it for the rest of 2017. And it's really cool to get back into the game because there's so many more shrines that I didn't find, Korok seeds, places in the map that I didn't visit. So have you guys gone through the whole DLC yet?
No. Yeah, I played the first bit of it and then got my ass handed to me.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm planning on going back. But I love Breath of the Wild because for the same, like, I really love Mario Odyssey, but I 100% of that game. And I see like people tweeting about it and like they're still finding joy in it. And I found everything. So there's nothing for me to go back to. But
You ate your dessert too fast.
I know, I really did. I really did. But Zelda still has so much stuff in it.
Yeah,
and it's really cool to just pop that open and just have that wonder every time.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you guys have looked into like what this DLC is, but like it's really meaty. It takes you all over the map, and I think they purposely sent you to places that maybe a lot of people hadn't visited. So like just by going to check out these new quests, I'm like, oh, there's another shrine here that I've never found. So that's been really cool too.
Yeah.
Is it just kind of more the same? Is it just sort of like new shrines?
Well, it's new shrines, and then there's like quests to find the shrines, and then you refight all the bosses basically. And they're like harder versions of the bosses.
There's some light story stuff, like they get into some new cutscenes and stuff like that.
A
lot of the people
like flashbacks to
totally,
what happens.
Yeah. A lot of the people that went into this expecting like, you know, master mode or something like Breath of the Wild 2 or something. The way like when you typed in Zelda as your name in the original game, you got a whole sequel that was rearranged. They're kind of disappointed they didn't really get a ton of like backstory kind of stuff like that. But what's there is cool. It's just not, you know.
Well, I think there's a lot there too.
Right. There is.
I've been playing it for a week now, and I've only beaten 2 of the bosses. It's really fun.
I got through it like the first week that it came out, and I didn't collect all the side masks and all the other things, but I went through the main part of the DLC. Yeah. And I will say that getting through that first part of it is really tough, but you're probably already through there. And then the other shrines that you have to collect, and then that final part of it. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't played it already, but I think it's great. I really love that Nintendo was able to add even more content to the game. It
wasn't big enough already.
It's a little weak that it's not as like directly story related. It's sort of like a precursor to what happened in Breath of the Wild, but I still really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a great way to supposedly finish off all the content coming to the game. So yeah, very cool. What have you been playing, Brian?
Well, speaking of Zelda, I'm playing my second favorite Zelda game on Switch, which is Blossom Tales.
Nice.
A game which it's sort of like doesn't even pretend that it's hiding the fact that it's just completely celebrating A Link to the Past. Like, this is the ultimate video game nod to A Link to the Past that isn't actually A Link Between Worlds or a sequel or anything like that. Like, so when I first started playing this game, I was like, oh, it's kind of, you know, old school Final Fantasy-ish. And I'm like, oh, wait, no. Like, this is A Link to the Past.
Oh, man.
The floors fall apart. There's dungeons. There is a boomerang, and there are spin attacks, and the whole game stars a female, which is really cool because like every Zelda game I've ever played is just about Link. But these dungeons are really smart. They're really clever. They're all like themed around different environmental puzzles and bosses and stuff like that. There's shops. There's heart containers. This is Zelda. This is straight up 2D Zelda. So if you played Breath of the Wild and you're like, this game was kind of missing the dungeons, it was missing a lot of the stuff that like the charm that I love from the 2D games, please check this game out. I will say that the icon for the game is hideous. It's bad. Like it doesn't. It looks
those.
like some like generic like DeviantArt anime.
They're
game.
definitely not trying to clickbait you.
Yeah, like it's the
Yeah.
opposite of clickbait. Like don't judge a book by its eShop cover, I guess.
Don't judge this game.
But
by
the
cover,
game rules. It's like $15. It's totally awesome. I played it for like 6 hours straight on a cross country flight, and I'm still playing it now and trying to 100% it. So yeah,
I love
look
it.
that up.
I love it too, but I feel like it's brutally hard sometimes.
It gets a little difficult.
Yeah. Like, and some of the bosses, like some of the sub bosses in the dungeons, are a lot easier for me to get through, or harder. I'm sorry, to get through than the actual bosses themselves.
Yep.
So I don't know. But other than that, I love the game itself. The game is really fun, and it does a perfect job, like giving a callback to games like Link to the Past and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really weird to sort of tread that and not be like, oh, we're totally ripping you off. We're
Yeah.
celebrating. That is a very tough line to walk. And I think they teeter over each side here and there, but it works. It totally works. So check it out.
Are you finding the same sorts of items that you find in Zelda that give you access to?
Yep,
new
straight up.
areas? Yeah. Okay.
Straight up.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yep. What about you, Max? What have you been up to this week?
So I used the winter break as a good chance to kind of catch up on a lot of stuff on Switch I'd been putting off. I finally beat Odyssey, which was wonderful.
Nice.
I got to do that like totally cliche, like, oh, I'm gonna have my niece play Odyssey, and I got to watch a 5-year-old girl like power through like the whole first, hat world or whatever. And then I was like, you know what? I should really confession. I haven't finished Breath of the Wild. I keep going up against Thunderblight Ganon and just getting incredibly frustrated, and then walking away, and then coming back and being like, oh man, I forgot how to play this.
Yeah, there's a high learning curve coming back to it.
Yeah, and somebody ate all my stew, so I don't know. I don't have any help. I got to go cook and stuff. But yeah, no, I also play this game called Gorogoa, which I love. It's on Steam and iOS too, and it's this wonderful, incredibly like totally hand-drawn puzzle game. It's made by one dude. He spent 7 years making it.
Oh my God.
And it's finally out, and he decided to drop it a week before Christmas when everyone is away. And
Yeah, it was on like the
there's
21st, right?
It was ridiculous, yeah. But I think it's like $15, and it's just beautiful. You can kind of play through it pretty quickly. It's not a very long game, but it's one of my favorite things in games. It feels like just a very high concept pop-up book. Very trippy. You kind of you have these different sort of images. There's always sort of like 4 tiles on the screen, and there are these beautiful like illustrated things, and occasionally they'll sort of animate. But it'll be things where you tap on an item and it like zooms in, and so it'll be like a picture on the background of a wall, and suddenly the camera moves through that image, and you're in the setting of the picture. It gets like very psychedelic, very kind of heady, but it's once you kind of get the hang of it, it's really rewarding, really fun game. And yeah, I can't recommend that enough. And then yeah, like I said, I tried to New Year's Eve. I was like, I'm gonna beat Thunderblight Ganon. And I jumped back in there, and I was like, I hate this guy. So I have the DLC, the season pass. And I'm like, maybe I'll go get Tinker.
You should just have someone here just beat that guy for you. Pretend you did it. It doesn't really matter, and then just get back into the game. Yeah, no one will notice.
We do it all the time.
Yeah. Other than that, I've been kind of chipping away at Doom, which is just I love the novelty of being it's the most aggressively M-rated game in history, really, and the fact that I'm playing it on this like adorable, like brightly colored, children's device is just like really fun for me. So
Awesome.
that's what I've been on.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been playing a ton of games myself. I've been playing a lot of Blossom Tales as well, but I've also been playing Brawl Out. Have you guys been playing Brawl Out?
Yeah,
too?
I played a little bit more. It's I've never been able to get like a really great game going online. It's always kind of choppy, but when I play single player, it's totally fun. And I know that's not what people are looking for. But
Right, yeah. I mean, the local multiplayer is incredibly fun on this game. I had a blast playing it over the break with my sister,
cool.
girlfriend, and some friends too. But yeah, the online, it's a little shaky right now, but I do know that the developers are planning on releasing a patch very soon that's supposed to fix a lot of the frame stutters and the online stuff. But if you're not aware about this game, it's a little, as you can see just by watching some of the footage, it looks a lot like the Smash Brothers series. And that's really a good thing because it's a ton of fun to play, especially if you're into platform fighters like this. Like I said, it does have some online issues right now, but they are going to get fixed. One thing that is different about the Brawl Out series than the Smash Brothers series too is that they totally took out the block mechanic. Like there's no way to block in this game. It's all about attacking, going full force, and then as you progress through the game, obviously like you can level up your characters. They don't get any stronger, but you can earn more characters. There's characters from other indie games There's like Hyperlight Drifters in this, and so is the guy from Guacamelee. I don't know. I totally forget his name. Juan, yes.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. But I've also been playing another little game called Stick Bold, a dodgeball story, which is it's a cute little indie game or a dodgeball adventure. Excuse me. Deluxe. Yes. Let's make sure to say that. It's fun. It's cool. It's
Look at
it's
this
like
man.
this little adventure / dodgeball game. So like the actual premise or the main game hook of this game itself is to play dodgeball, but it's level based. So as you play, like there's a story and you unlock more characters, it opens up. And if you're playing by yourself, I'd say it's okay, but it's totally a party game that you want to play with like 4 to 6 players. So that actually just came out yesterday. So if you're looking for a good party game to play on Switch, I definitely recommend you check this one out. It's quite a lot of fun. But yeah, so let's move straight into the main topics for today. I was shocked when I saw this news story pop up because I was there for the launch of the PlayStation 2, like many of you were, and I'm sure many of you out there as well. So it's pretty incredible to hear that the Nintendo Switch has outsold the PlayStation 2 first-year sales in Japan, which is crazy. Now, they both came out in March, but obviously the Switch came out in 2017, and the PlayStation 2 came out in the year 2000. So, but they had the same launch month.
I kind of forgot about that, by the way, that they both launched in March. When the Switch launched in March, I thought that was such a novel thing for a console to do.
Right.
You see that a lot with handhelds, like sort of like, the sort of off like target launch of where like it's supposed to be Christmas time. Everyone's celebrating with throwing money in the air.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised to read about that, about the PS2, and also the Switch is outselling it because the PS2 was a DVD player.
Yeah.
Like, it was an awesome video game console, but it was also...
It was my first DVD player.
Yeah, it was most people's first DVD player. Like, that was the sort of Trojan horse of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the Switch has Hulu.
It's not even a browser. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's weird to think about this. Also, the fact that the Switch was that was worldwide, right? That was
Switch was worldwide.
yeah. Whereas PS2 was just in Japan, so it's almost like a smaller sort of test bed. Obviously, these are just Japanese numbers, but like I wonder because of how the internet and social media works and kind of global hype, how much of kind of the Switch being out in the wild, worldwide, kind of feeds back into Japanese popularity.
Right.
I think what's really crazy about having a handheld that's kind of released like that, you mentioned that earlier in the year, is that you see somebody with like this device with neon controllers, and you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
What are you playing on the airplane or the train? Like, and it kind of almost is like it's organic marketing,
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing about it being portable, right? Like you bring it with you places and people sort of go, what is that? I was on a plane over Christmas break and, I got on and everybody else is getting on as well. And this guy just stopped and he was just like, dude, what's that? What is that thing? And I'm like, oh, it's a Nintendo Switch. Your parents help you set it up. And I had to sort of quickly mansplain, I'm playing ukulele on this thing. And yeah, it's a 3D action platforming game. And I don't know if the lizard and the bat are dating or what's going on, but you can collect stuff and then learn moves. And he was like, all right, cool. I'm going to my seat now. It's like, oh, cool. Maybe I sold you on a system. I have no idea. Like you couldn't really do that with a PS2.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's true. Anecdotally, I had a bunch of flights over the holidays, and I am seeing other people playing the Switch now, just on flights and stuff.
It's really cool to see. People who aren't really people I would expect from the target demographic of video gamers,
Chrissy
aka
Teigen.
Yeah, Chrissy Teigen, aka 18 to 35-year-old males. You get a lot of people who I saw a 70-year-old Asian man, and I'm like, what is he playing? I want to go bother you, but it's really cool. It's really cool.
Another
to see.
thing that's kind of crazy about it is that when the PS2 came out, it was it was a kind of a clearer landscape for consoles and everything. It was really it was Sony or Nintendo, maybe a Dreamcast,
Right.
But now it's everyone's got tablets and phones, and it's why would you shell out for a dedicated gaming tablet when you could just get free iPad games or whatever? And I was playing with my niece and nephews, and they were into it, but at the same time, the older ones were just glued to Minecraft on an iPad. And I think it's funny that maybe the fact that this is we've all kind of come full circle where we grew up playing Nintendo stuff, and then now it's oh, you got a little disposable income, you're in your 30s, maybe you want to go buy a Nintendo handheld that you can also he's in your TV.
And I think it's interesting you bring that up because there were a few years there where I think Apple was trying to get us to buy an iPad every year. They wanted everyone to buy an iPad every year. And then they realized people buy iPads not like they buy phones, but more like they buy MacBooks or computers in general, which is like every 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, right? You know, they kind of space those things out. And I think we hit market saturation with a lot of tablets. Amazon sells Kindles like 2 for $40 on Black Friday and Cyber Monday and stuff like that. They just give them away. And we all had our fun with those things, and they're great for reading and comics and stuff like that. But they kind of suck for games, or at least they kind of suck for games that aren't like kind of like strategy games or
there's
clicky
certain
puzzle
games
games.
that there's certain games that they do suck for.
Yeah, totally. And that's where I think Nintendo can come in and go like, well, here's Breath of the Wild, here's Mario Odyssey, here's Doom. Like first-person shooters, 3D platformers, action-adventure games are not really the games you want to play on a tablet. But just as that market is sort of oversaturated and dying down, I think Nintendo came in at the perfect time to be like, here you go. Here's this thing. It's got buttons and sticks.
Yeah.
Go kill some goblins.
But they still have their feet in both pools. I mean,
Yeah.
like, because they have things like Mario Run and they have
Yeah.
you know, Animal Crossing and stuff, but they're still making those same or they're bringing those franchises over to Switch at the same time. So
Hopefully.
yeah. But I love the fact that we have a dedicated handheld device like this, you know, that we can take with us on the go, or we can just play it as a home console. I think it's an incredible thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's so cool, in fact, that obviously the rest of the world thinks so because it's beating the Wii sales, or it's outselling the Wii in first year sales. So that makes the Nintendo Switch the fastest selling console in US history, which is crazy. I mean, if you think about it, because I remember when the Wii launched and it was like impossible to get one. You know, like you just could not find one for retail price, like in a legit place other than like Craigslist or
Right.
something like that. So, you know, there was that situation initially with the Switch with the first months after launch where it was like almost impossible to find one. But now, like, you can walk into a store and pretty much find yourself a Switch, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like it was still like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years until we saw like Wii's.
For Wii's? Yeah, it took a really long time. It's weird because like Tickle Me Elmo is still the benchmark for like when stuff goes really big at the holiday season, or when it's really hard to find something. I don't know why Nintendos don't just replace that. Like why it's not just like, oh, you know, this is like this year's Nintendo Wii, or this is like this year's Switch. We still talk about Tickle Me Elmo. It's not really a big thing. The big success here is not really comparing it to Wii, which is tremendous, obviously, but comparing it to Wii U, which is what they just did. And like,
That's just mean. That's not.
No, I mean,
the
it's
Wii U
like-
doesn't need that. It's got enough baggage.
I bought a Wii U. I really enjoyed it.
I bought a Wii U.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really enjoyed it. But
I enjoyed it.
I tried to.
I enjoyed it when I could, when they let me, when they put games out for it. I enjoyed it. Coming off of the non-success of that system to where we are now is, I think, really the big story, because you know that was a dark ages, and we had to hear things like Nintendo's going third party, and what's Mario going to be like on Xbox, and luckily we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I think it's amazing to have that really great selling system transition into a very poorly selling system and then swing back around.
I feel bad because I was one of those people that was saying Nintendo should just get out of the hardware business and start making third-party games for the other platforms.
Yeah.
I was so wrong. I want to admit that I was so wrong about that.
I feel like I've been on a show. I've definitely been on a show at IGN saying, you know, very similar things. So it happens.
Well, they play the long con, you know. Like you look at their track
130
record, you know. Exactly. Yeah, they've been doing this for way longer than we have, and I think they've got a certain amount of like patience and foresight. And I mean, the fact that they launched the Wii U and they're like, okay, maybe we'll take a hit here. But like that was a test bed. That was like effectively a prototype they were
a good
selling.
point, yeah.
So maybe it was a loss. But I mean, same with like the first generation of DS was like this terrifying like clamshell looking, not clamshell thing. And then, you know, it gradually kind of got distilled and evolved into this like, beautiful.
Yeah, the first DS was this like weird angular layer cake.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my
And it was
goodness.
so ugly.
It made this like popping noise when you open it. And
It doesn't look like a Nintendo device.
No.
Like it's really
It looks like a
ugly.
Tiger Gamecom or
Yeah.
something like that.
Looks
like
like an
a weird-
old-fashioned donut.
Yeah.
Or just like a really bad calculator. I don't know.
A crueler.
What's really surprising to me about these numbers is that the PlayStation 4 is far and away the best-selling console of this generation.
Yeah.
I guess the Wii or the Switch has sold more in its first year or the first 9 months than the PS4 did. I find that surprising, but I guess that's what they're saying.
or quicker? Like, what is
Well,
that?
at least it's the fastest selling console in U.S. history. So, like, at least we can assume that that's just for this country, the United States. But outside, I don't have those exact numbers in front of me, so it could be true that that is the case.
Europe is always like a weird wild card when it comes to this stuff. I know like PS4 kills over there, and Nintendo stuff not as much. Like we've had the UK editors on our shows here, and like they just didn't really grow up with that same drive through Nintendo nostalgia. That,
Well, they didn't have the NES.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Which is weird.
Miss out on that.
Right? Like they all like 80s and 90s babies here at IGN like grew up with NES and Super NES, and we have great nostalgia for them. And in the UK, they were just like, no, we were just playing cricket.
We had our ZX Spectrums.
Yeah, they had a bunch of weird microcomputers.
Yep.
Did you guys hear that story earlier this week reported by the Wall Street Journal about Nintendo delaying their 64 gigabyte Switch game cards for development until 2019?
I did.
So apparently, those 64 gigabyte game cards were originally supposed to launch in the second half of 2018 for partner developers with Nintendo, but they've apparently been pushed back to 2019. And this comes from people who are in direct knowledge or business discussions with Nintendo, I guess. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, the original or the Switch cartridges that we have right now can hold up to 32 gigabytes of memory, which is a pretty decent amount of space because we see a lot of, especially first-party Switch titles coming out that are like 14 gigabytes or 13 gigabytes.
I have no idea how they're pulling that kind of magic in Nintendo because you see third-party stuff that's like, it's like a 40 gig game and there's like, it comes with the cart and then there's like spillover. Like if you wanted to download the multiplayer for Doom, like that's a digital download and like then it's eating into your SD card. And then Nintendo comes out and they're like, Breath of the Wild, 7 gigs. We don't know how.
What?
Right?
They're saving
I
a
think
lot
it's
of room.
like 13 or something like that.
Saving a lot of room on like voice acting.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one thing.
That's true.
LA Noire, for instance, like that game was 27 gigabytes, and that's a Rockstar game. So I don't know. I just feel like companies or developers like Rockstar who have big franchises like Grand Theft Auto, who have sort of hinted that maybe they'd like to bring something like Grand Theft Auto over to Switch, are just waiting for these cartridges to become available. Like they need bigger size cartridges for something like this.
Yeah.
I wonder if it doesn't come down to how much it costs to produce them.
Yeah,
because I mean, we
cost.
see the very quick kind of like decline in prices of media. It used to be like SD cards for like a 2 gigabyte one was like that was a chunk of change, and now it's like you throw them away. You're like, what is this for?
Right. They used to be like $120 for like a 1 gigabyte.
And that's how that works. And putting for Flash media, like that's I imagine like a year and a half is that's for half the size to go down in price. That's like that could be it. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, like the price as technology advances and as those cards get cheaper, like, they'll become more available. So I could see something like that, whereas like the manufacturer capabilities of whatever factory Nintendo was working with, just they weren't able to meet the timing and the demands. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter because they're still the fastest selling console right now.
At the tail end of their sort of like self-congratulatory video thing about like we're the best selling this, fastest selling this. There was a little like kind of footnote that was like, and look for continued support from our new friends at EA, Bethesda, all the people they 2K, all the guys they never really worked with in a very long time. So that's good to know because bigger file sizes or cart sizes will inspire these developers to bring more games over. And if you're looking at something like LA Noire, which is, what'd you say, 27?
27, yeah.
And it's a last gen game.
Right.
Then that's going to provide some hurdles for anybody trying to bring over anything fresh and new. Yeah. I'm kind of wondering to see like what Wolfenstein 2 looks like, because Doom they managed to shrink down. It's still a pretty meaty game, but that said, I'm all digital, so I really want the micro SD card prices to start dropping. I want like a 1 terabyte one for $100.
1 terabyte.
Yeah, like
I think that's just you're good, man.
Why?
You shouldn't have that many games. Zelda's only like 7 gigs, man. You don't need that much space.
Well, the highest one
playing like Flower Child or whatever.
Flower Child is a 256,000 gig game.
The best game ever.
You see how many particles are on that child?
Speaking of the Wii cartridges, I was on my flight home recently and I was playing Mario Kart and I was going to switch to Zelda. So I popped out Mario Kart and I held it in my lips and I put in Zelda and I took out Mario Kart and I was like, They really do taste bad. Remember that?
Yep.
They totally taste bad.
They don't want
they
you
treat
doing
them
that.
because they don't want kids putting them in their mouth.
Yeah, not even
that
like
was
the temporary hold.
It was like a story when it launched, and I totally forgotten about it. They really do taste bad.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're making new flavors. That's what the delay
Yeah,
is.
maybe that's what it is.
It's like those Harry Potter beans that are just awfully.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
New earwax Bayonetta 3 or whatever.
The 64 gig cards will all be buttered popcorn.
Oh, good. Finally. A delicious choking hazard.
All 31 flavors of Switch cards. Okay, so yeah, moving on from there, I'm sure that many of you probably have heard this news already because it's been all over the internet. I know I've been hearing a ton of stories. Now, apparently, there are a ton of rumors pointing towards a January 11th Nintendo Direct, and this all started from the website Reset Era, which is a website that was sort of birthed from the ruins of NeoGAF, I guess.
How long do we have to wait until Reset Era is around that we can just stop explaining what it is?
I don't know. I just feel like it deserves an explanation every single time. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're definitely getting something. Obviously, it's all speculation. Nothing is confirmed. I feel like we're definitely going to hear something in January, as far as like a direct or something from Nintendo. And I'd like to hear what you guys think or what you would like to see out of Nintendo, out of a direct in January from Nintendo.
Well, I'd like to see, some big first-party games. Like, what are we going to be playing this year?
Right.
Like, last year was such an incredible year for Nintendo. Maybe its best year ever. Hopefully, it has a few more rounds left in the chamber that it's saved for 2018.
Yeah.
Imagine that they're just like, well, that was it. I mean, enjoy. There's Kirby
It was
and
the
Yoshi.
fastest selling console, and we'll see you all later.
We're going to the bar.
That's it.
Yeah. Like, there's nothing big. We know there's a Yoshi game coming.
Yeah.
An as yet untitled Yoshi game. They announced Metroid Prime 4, but that was just a logo at E3.
Yeah.
Who knows
Bayonetta
how near that is?
3 is
Bayonetta 3. There's a new Pokemon game coming for Switch, but they had nothing to show for that last year. So, yeah, I have no idea what are their big guns for 2018.
I mean, we keep waiting for them to kind of update the whole like firmware and home screen and everything, and maybe be like, hey, here's a browser, here's Netflix, here's all the kind of the basic stuff that they held off on. I was sort of expecting that stuff to pop up, in the fall, but it didn't. So I mean, I'm not complaining. I watch Netflix on like everything else in my house. I'm not really pushing for it, but I'm sure there are people out there who are like, oh hey, like a portable movie device.
Yeah.
It's a stupid little thing, but I mean, the Switch is so much about customization with the Joy-Cons, and all of that is kind of missing in the OS, whereas the 3DS had themes, which were really cool because you could pop on to My Nintendo or jump on the eShop and spend $1 or $2 and get basically a reskin theme on your 3DS that played different noises, or it was Zelda themed or whatever it was. We have nothing like that now. We have like white or black. Yeah, I think it's like, or inverted colors, which is like, that's it. So I hope we get to see something like that. Those are little things, right? Little bells and whistles. But in terms of games, I want Animal Crossing. That's the one. That is the big one. That is like the big thing that I think will sell a metric ton of Switches this year. It doesn't have the same power to sort of hardcore gamers like Zelda and Mario do, but the average gamer buys a lot of Animal Crossing. And the mobile game was fine. I still poke around with it here and there.
I think all of Nintendo's mobile games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Animal Crossing, like the Pocket Camper was a great, like that was a reminder for a lot of people.
Yeah.
That like, hey, this is fun. And maybe it's not fun to bring clams to an elephant like, twice a day, but like, what if this were a bigger game, and then it's, it reminds you of what that whole kind of dollhouse experience is like. And I mean, it's perfectly suited for it because you take it on the go with you.
Yeah, it felt like being in like a mall food court and someone's like, here, try this. And you're like, oh, where's the other thing? You're like, hopefully in a couple of months.
I feel like Animal Crossing would make a lot of sense for Nintendo to put it out this year, especially because they just released Pocket Camp. And that's, obviously came out as a free-to-play game, and that means that anybody with a smart device like a tablet or a phone can download it and be, if they've never played Animal Crossing, this is maybe their first introduction to it. And maybe if they have a Switch, they'll get Animal Crossing on Switch now too. So it's just a smart move for Nintendo to sort of plant these seeds, kind of like what I think they're doing with like continuing to release like the Link Green 2DS, you know what I mean? So that people could, for instance, buy that for their child or something like that and plant the seed, the Nintendo seed like we all had when we were younger. So
Well, Nintendo was upfront about the fact that they wanted to use their mobile games to spur interest in their console games.
Right.
And I think they've had a console game follow every mobile game so far. There was Super Mario Run, and then Super Mario Odyssey, Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah.
And then there was the new Fire Emblem last year.
Yep.
So by that logic, maybe, yeah.
There was that Zelda mobile game.
No.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Killer app.
They email me about that game all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, Virtual Console is something that we're all looking for. It's got to start rolling out. It's such an easy win for them that it boggles my mind why they haven't done it yet. Although I think what a lot of people are expecting or hoping for is this sort of like Netflix style rollout where there's a subscription model and then you get access to tons of games a month. I think that's interesting because Netflix does a really good job of keeping that sort of perpetual excitement going for media, but also for eventizing anything new that comes around. Like they're like, coming this month, it's Ghostbusters. And you're like, that movie is 40 years old. And they're like, but we have it now. And like, cool.
right.
Like I think they can do something like that.
No, I mean, same with like PlayStation Plus is like they'll announce the new games every month, and it'll be a game that I own a physical copy of, and I'm like, I still go to my library. I'm like, yeah, now I own the digital.
Now
too.
I have it.
If I lose the disc, it's mine. And I'm like, I played this game 3 years ago. I don't need it. It's fine. But it's still that kind of, I don't know. You get excited about the idea of a new thing or a free thing, and I think that could work really well for Nintendo.
There's obviously some easy wins looking at the back catalog that they've had over the last 12 years that they could sort of just up-res and drag over. Stuff like Punch-Out would be really cool to see again. I really like the Wii version.
You think they'd give it like arms controls?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, sure, why not, right? Like that worked with that game, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers, obviously, the easiest one. I don't know if they'll hold out for like a dedicated Smash or if they'll just bring the old one over. Like,
I mean, look at how well Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did.
Exactly.
Like it totally makes sense to just be like, hey, here's one of the best like Wii U games. Period. Like, put it over.
Little ones like Captain Toad is once again totally easy win. Drop that in like March or something when there's nothing going on, and just go, hey, here you go. Here's Captain Toad. $20.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
Mario Maker, obviously. There's so many games that they just sort of left on the Wii U that a lot of people missed.
Yeah, I feel like there are a ton of things that Nintendo could really make a lot of people happy with if they just talked about it during this direct. Like for me, I would be thrilled if we finally got a solid launch date for like the new online infrastructure that we've been hearing so much about and a price. So it would be really cool to obviously, along with Virtual Console, get GameCube Virtual Console, which is something that we've been asking for forever, right? I'm just a little worried. I personally would like to see a Netflix style Virtual Console rollout where we just have this catalog that we can choose from. But I'm worried that they've been testing out like with the sort of Neo Geo releases and like the Arcade versus Mario Brothers thing that came out, just like rolling out old school games in that fashion,
Well, if they can make you pay $8 a week, why would you pay $8 a month?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if the games are $8 each, right?
But I don't know how well those games are selling. They haven't been picking the best old school arcade games.
So weirdly, 2 days after Christmas, they launched Verse Super Mario Brothers, which is a port of this like sort of fever dream version of the original NES and Famicom Mario Brothers that has like slightly remixed levels in some harder areas, but it's mostly just the original Super Mario Brothers.
Right.
And that came out through the sort of like, who's the company that, Hamster, is it? No, I'm totally blanking. I'm sorry. It's ACA.
Is it ACA?
Yeah, so they ported all the Neo Geo stuff.
Yeah, it's the same company doing Versus?
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers?
And so they also handled the Mario Brothers port, which is the,
the
Mario and Luigi, the original one, right? In the pipes and stuff like that. So Super Mario Brothers for NES is sort of on your Switch right now, and no one really noticed. Like it kind of just quietly launched right after Christmas. So I'm hoping that there's more of an event for their classic games than what they've been doing with that.
Right, yeah. It seems like almost a soft launch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas we would like to see a more grandiose sort of reveal for something like that.
Like if they drop something like Super Metroid, like on like a Sunday afternoon and no one's looking, like on a holiday.
It seems like a missed opportunity.
Totally.
I mean, like I know that they've got that mentality of like it's half of it's like, oh, we don't want to, just put this stuff out there for 99 cents because it devalues it. But at the same time, they kind of have that like Disney collector's vault mentality of like, this will come out, but only for a month. Like maybe it goes away and you never get it again. And you're like, well, I guess to play a Super Nintendo game, I have to get out my Wii. Like what?
Yeah.
Or buy it again. And
It's a weird company, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Move in mysterious ways.
Do you guys
That's what that U2 song is about.
Do you guys feel like it's too early for us to get a tease for Pokemon on Switch?
I mean, they showed it. They showed a guy at a table like drawing the logo, so it's never
Right.
too early. I guess.
That's true. I guess. No,
yeah,
I mean
I
like a full-fledged, like actual gameplay tease.
Man, I would love that. I'm always so torn on sort of learning anything about a video game too early, right? Because it's like you look at what PlayStation did for a couple of years, and we talk about this on Beyond all the time. I mean, they showed us the like Shenmue 3 Kickstarter logo like 3 years ago, and the Final Fantasy 7 remake, and like where are those things? You know, like I think there's like a fine line between being like get excited and also spend most of your adult life waiting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it leads to more disappointment. I'd really be totally fine if they just didn't show us any Pokemon stuff until like a little bit closer to. You know, I think E3 would be totally fine if that is a thing that's coming out in the fall. Maybe I don't know if it is or not. I don't know what we're looking at with that, but it also just seems like an odd time to kind of drop it in January 11th. And then of course it's a Pokemon company thing, so it's kind of that weird like
Right.
stepbrother thing.
Yeah, they work very strange with that company. Like there's a lot of crossover and then there's a lot of non-crossover. Yeah. Like every amiibo worked in Mario Maker except for like the Pokemon ones, and like there's like little communication things that just don't work the same way like they do with all of their other sort of first party companies. So I don't know. I'd like to see that. I think that the Direct in general needs to happen because they did such a great job last year of not only communicating on what we were going to be playing in the months and weeks to come, but delivering on those things. Sort of having a heavy hitter every single month from the launch until the end of the year.
Yeah.
You know? So we're due.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys think there will be DLC for Mario Odyssey?
I was wondering that.
I hope so.
Because I hope so.
It seems like such a no-brainer, especially
Give us
after
another one more world.
Yeah, or I don't know, like just like anything, just throw it all in there. Just I don't care what it is. Like let me just play as Yoshi all the time. Like just give me, I don't know. It's so limitless. Like there's such an insane amount of like you could possess a man, just a regular man, and be a Tyrannosaurus. Like they completely threw like the rule book out the window there. And it's not like it had like a hard ending. It was kind of like, go back and find more of these stupid moons. Like, go for it.
You can just reskin some of the old levels, make New Donk City angrier and call it Boston. Do whatever you want. I'd be totally down. Like, that's one of the cool things about Breath of the Wild, right? And like I was talking about earlier, I can't go back to Mario Odyssey because I 100% of that game, and I want to because it's such a joy to play. Yeah. And what am I going to go do? Like get better time trial scores on like the bouncy ball racing modes or whatever with those weird snow guys? Yeah. I don't want to do any of that. Like I want
to play through it on easy mode.
No,
you could do that. That's a real step backwards.
I could do more jump ropes.
Yeah, there's always you could top that leaderboard. It's just like a terrible idea.
It's like me, Andrew Goldfarb, and like 5 just insanely sharp Japanese dudes.
I feel like it would be a huge missed opportunity if they didn't release DLC for that game. Yeah, they're like what you were saying, Max. It's just such a massive world or worlds, and there's so much to do in that game. It's fun just to exist in that game, just to run around and explore stuff. So for people like you who did 100% the game, Brian, I think that like adding DLC you'd jump right back into it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, totally. No pun intended. I would totally play through an entire section of that. If they added a new section of that game that was almost entirely 2D inspired levels, I think that'd be a really cool hook for DLC.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of a cheap and easy win, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like building out a whole 3D world, you can be like, Mario goes in this pipe and he plays through an entire 8-bit video game on some guy's wall.
I want Luigi DLC for that game.
I agree.
Yeah,
Totally. Be awesome.
Outside of just his hat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Just something with Luigi.
It's an entire game about going to new places and becoming new characters. It seems like whereas Zelda, they've got this huge world, and it's kind of like I was like, are they going to have like a new area?
Yeah.
And not really. It's kind of like putting new systems and stuff in there, and kind of more of the same. But Mario specifically is like modular enough that you could be like, hey, here's a new area to go to. It's totally nuts.
Yeah, he gets in his hat and he flies to South America one day. And you're like, oh, cool. There's no narrative reasoning behind that. No one cares. It's great.
There's no reason to explain it. I don't know. I also feel like we might hear some more from Nintendo's mobile end as well. Like, I know we were joking about it before, but they are working on a Zelda mobile game. So maybe we'll get some sort of a tease there. I don't feel like they're slowing down on their mobile front. just yet.
Yeah.
Um,
God, I wonder what the hell that is going to look like.
yeah, I do think we'll hear more about Animal Crossing, like, you know, some more updates. There's still like a crafting, like clothing crafting that has to come to that game.
Yeah, and they do stuff around holidays. Like they had a bunch of like junk at New Year's and Christmas, and just sort of give you a reason to pop in there and give the elephant his clams or whatever.
He does love those clams.
Feed that horse a bunch of apples.
It's a weird game.
Love it.
Yeah, I kind of hope though that their mobile stuff obviously is important, but we're coming off all these stats about how great the Switch is. A lot of people just got one for Christmas, presumably.
Oh, yeah.
It would be so typically Nintendo to come out and be like, great news, everybody. There's a new Fire Emblem mobile game and it's all about collecting cards. And you're like, just put out Switch things.
Yeah, also
get us excited.
We spent all of 2017 just kind of like giving them a soft pass on putting games we really want on 3DS.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I get it. We're in 2018 now. Drag and drop those over to Switch. We did it. We did the sympathy thing for everybody in the transitional period and all that. You know, there's 3DSs are cheaper than ever. It's great to buy. Blah blah blah. There's so many great games with a great library. Blah blah blah. Bring it to Switch. Yeah. Stop screwing around. Just bring it over to where. Bring that Mario Party 100 game. Bring that over. Bring a Link Between Worlds. Bring it all to Switch. Just put it all on Switch.
Just
Wind
as
Waker.
is.
Anything you got. Just bring it to Switch. Come on down. We'll take it all. It's old pawn shop.
Oh man, I don't know. I loved my 3DS. I really did.
Me too.
Played a ton of games on it, and it kept me busy for so long. But I feel like 2018 has to be the year that Nintendo just lets it sort of take a backseat, or just lets it go completely and let the Switch become sort of the dedicated handheld. That's my big hope. But we do still have at least 3 big games coming out for the 3DS, first party releases for that system: Radiant Historia, Shin Megami Tensei, and of course Kirby Battle Royale, where there's a demo actually on the
Every
on the
game's getting a
3DS
battle
show.
royale mode these days.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Even Kirby, it's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, do you guys think we'll see first party developed 3DS titles in 2018 beyond just those 3 titles right there?
I mean, yeah, as to what Max just said, it's exactly what we don't want Nintendo to do, and it's exactly what they will do, because they're weird.
I mean, look at the install base for that system.
Totally.
There's so many people out there who are still playing that, and you know, maybe they're kids, maybe they're people who like things they can fit in their pockets. I don't know, but it makes total sense. What I would like to see is if they found a way to put it on both. I mean, it was weird to be at the Game Awards and it was like the Game of the Year, Zelda, and there's a Wii U logo, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that was a Wii U game,
Right.
And it seemed completely out of place. But I mean, we kind of forget that because we are sort of early adopters and you know, edge weirdos.
Like in the same way, like, you know, you always say to yourself, like, oh man, I really wish I could play like Link to the Past again for the first time. There are people that walk into a GameStop now and they buy a 3DS dirt cheap for like $30, like, or 2DS or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they walk downstairs to that giant library and they're like, oh my god, like there are like 500 games on this thing, and there's 50 of the best games ever made on this thing.
Wow, Hannah Montana's Puzzle Tunnel, only $4.
Number 1 game on IGN's top 100 3DS games for the 5th year in a row. We have no idea what we're doing here.
You said you want to play Link to the Past again for the first time. I've been watching a lot of Black Mirror, and that made me think of a Black Mirror scenario. If you could just have that memory erased of playing Link to the Past originally, so you could play it again. It seemed like the first time, would you?
Oh yeah, totally.
Really?
Totally.
Wow, I don't know if I'd erase any of my
Well, it'd be weird
memories.
because it's tough for me to say working here, because I'd come to school every day and be like, hey guys, I'm playing this game called Link to the Past. And be like, how did you get here? Anyway, I have to go host this Nintendo show with my friend.
You're gonna love Dementia.
Actually, yeah, that's a cheat code. You can replay all your favorite games for the first time.
No, I mean, like I have this with Skyrim, where I've played Skyrim on, I think I've started out on everything it's been on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I really have gotten sick of starting it. But the first time I started, I was like, oh, there's a dragon. I'm in the cart. It's so realistic. Oh, those birds are making it's a snow. It's so real. And then now I'm just like, oh, come on. They should patch in a thing where you can skip this.
Yep.
Just let me go fight the things, you know? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, honestly, the 3DS itself is a fantastic system, but it's time for the Switch to just totally like full force go in with it this year. And I think that Nintendo knows that a lot of people feel that way, but the install base is huge in itself. So that's something that cannot be overlooked.
Well, it's also not overlooked the fact that the Switch is the fastest selling game in U.S. or console in U.S. history.
Yep. And it's also portable, so it's not even like it's not even like, oh, we're doing console stuff over here and handheld stuff over here. You can bring it anywhere, which is all the more reason to not bring 3DS anywhere.
I mean, the way they shot themselves in the foot with 3DS and 2DS, and I mean, just the whole DS thing, is there's 2 screens. And this has one screen. So like, what's the least awkward way to work around that? Like, is it like a picture-in-picture thing, or is it, and it's still touchscreen, so using stylus-based things wouldn't work as well?
Have you played any DS games that were ported to Wii U that you can play on like a giant television? Because that's the most awkward way to reverse answer that question. That is just bizarre.
So they did that?
Yeah, there's
game?
like Brain Age and a bunch of other weird games.
You can play Brain Age on Wii U?
Yeah, you can play Metroid Prime Hunters on Wii U on a 65-inch 4K TV.
I did
and
not
few
know
things on Earth are ugly.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and roll over into question block. This week's question block comes from Ellie Ebby, excuse me. Ellie asks, hey, NVC team, we think you know that Mario is the king of the platformer, but really, when you take away his mascot power, there has been a series of games consistently better crafted than his. Are you listening, Barrett, by the way? The true king of the platformer is none other than Kong. So erase Plumber Boy's iconic image from your mind for a second and tell me, are the old school Donkey Kong games better than the old school Mario games?
Nope.
Are the new school Donkey Kong games better than the new school Mario games?
Nope.
No!
That is sacrilegious,
Get that face out of here.
That's very scary.
For a lot of
Okay, all right.
Scary show.
So let's do this, right? Let's start.
Let's do it.
So Mario 1, 2, and 3 on the NES versus Donkey Kong 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, there's no comparison. And I love the first 2 Donkey Kongs, and I like Donkey Kong 3, even though it's kind of a broken.
Damon, I will even let you act now. I will throw in Donkey Kong Jr. Math absolutely for free.
I'm still going to go with Mario 1, 2, 3. Like, there's no comparison.
No question. The original Donkey Kong is awesome. Jr. is really fun.
Yeah.
3 is bad. I don't like 3.
I still like it because I like how weird it is.
Yes. It's definitely, it was risky of them at the time to be like, you remember that platforming game? What if you were a gardener and you had to squirt this dude in the taint? Keep his flies out of this. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, this could all be kind of boiled down to like a ratio. You know, it's kind of like a win-loss ratio, but you have to just quantify: is this a good or bad game? Which is, and you know, you can have some that are just basically perfect there.
I like that.
Get that out of here.
Is
Awful.
that real, like, official Nintendo art, or is this like I can't?
I hope not.
Okay, so then let's move to Super Nintendo. You have Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island versus Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3. And I can sort of see a debate there, right?
Yeah.
But I also can't at all. Because Mario World is better than all those games.
I agree with you, and I've always thought, maybe I'm in the minority in this, I've always thought the Donkey Kong Country games are ugly.
Really?
They are now.
Well,
I always say that
Like, they haven't aged well at all, and Super Mario World still looks beautiful.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between like pre-rendered graphics and pixel art, right? DKC2 has some of like the smartest and cleverest level design ever.
Sure.
So that
3
one-
is where it kind of falls
That
apart.
one pisses me off so much.
Really?
The second one, because I'm totally with you, Damon. Like, I think it ages poorly. But when I first saw, like, I think
At the
first
time, it was impressive.
I think the first time I used the word graphics was in regards to Donkey Kong Country. And like, I love that it has this kind of like grounded art direction where everything feels like a kind of a believable environment. And you get into 2 and you're like climbing this, like, you're climbing like ship rigging. And it keeps going up for an entire level. And you're like, how big is this ship? It stops making sense. And people are like, oh, it's the best platformer ever. And you're like, no, it's not.
That said, that first time that Rareware logo spun around in 3D and it played that, and you just heard there was like a symphony in there of like weird toots and farts. I was blown away because there was nothing like that. And they sent me a VHS tape in the mail where they explained how they made that game. It was great.
I loved the Donkey Kong Country series growing up. Like, I played the crap out of all 3 of those games. I thought that they were really impressive, and they were like impressively looking graphically from a graphic standpoint at the time, just because we had never seen stuff like that before, like pre-rendered, I guess, sprites put in like that. But from a gameplay perspective, I personally enjoy the Mario games, especially the old school Mario games.
Can we do 64? Can we really just slam dunk on this whole conversation right now?
All right, let's
Mario
do it.
64 versus Donkey Kong 64. Are you kidding me?
I don't think there's a
Really?
It's not a
question
it's not a
there.
conversation.
Yeah.
Really? Would you rather collect 120 beautiful stars all over this wonderful world, or
but Brian-
just get the balloons with Lanky Kong?
What if fruit was weapons? What could go wrong? What if there was a rap song?
What if you couldn't access anything unless you had everyone always? That's how that game works. It's broken. It's just borderline. Also,
so-
it ends in a boxing match. Spoilers. It's not good. It's not. No. Sorry. You're 5. I don't care.
We don't.
No,
it's
no
fine.
one, no one
It's
cares.
just-
Get out of here.
No, I mean, you got to look at it though, because Mario does make a lot more outings. Like Mario does, like his name gets attached to more stuff. So if you kind of determine which of these games count as proper platformers versus the stuff that Donkey Kong's in, like, I mean, first Donkey Kong, it's like you're not playing as him. You're not jumping around as Donkey Kong. So you could argue that's almost a Mario game.
Then you have GameCube era. You have Sunshine versus Jungle Beat, and what else was there? What else is on GameCube for Donkey Kong?
For Donkey Kong?
Donkey Konga.
There you go.
Oh wow.
There you go.
Are we even going to count that?
I'll throw it in there.
Okay.
I'll throw it as a freebie. You can have that. Sunshine's still
Innovative controls for Donkey Kong.
Yes.
Very good for Dark Souls.
Same with Jungle
and,
Beat. Yeah, I know. People are beating those games with that.
Bloodborne.
Yeah, I don't think that's a contest either. Jungle Beat's really cool, though. But then you move over to Wii, and you obviously have Donkey Kong Country Returns, which is like really awesome, actually. I really like that game. But I kind of like New Super Mario Brothers better. And then...
Were you a fan of Tropical Freeze?
I thought... I'm going to get roasted for this, but I thought that game was too hard.
Really?
Yeah, it was too hard to be fun for me.
I didn't play too much of it, obviously, but I thought it was fine. Honestly, I thought it was totally fine for a Donkey Kong game. I fell out of the Donkey Kong series after the Donkey Kong Country games on SNES.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, honestly, just to sum this whole thing up, the battle for me stands with Mario, like for new school and old school games. Donkey Kong definitely has a special place in my heart for the old school generation of those games, but there's no question Mario is just so much more fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about it?
What?
Donkey Kong versus Mario.
Haven't we already established that? There's no comparison.
Yeah,
Mario is
no
like
comparison?
leagues ahead of Donkey Kong.
Okay.
That said, I would be totally down to play like a brand new Donkey Kong game that reinvents itself in the same way Odyssey and
That's
Breath of
why
the Wild does.
like I like Donkey Kong 94.
Yeah. Oh,
game
94.
is amazing.
Dude, I don't know how we
Which-
forgot about that.
yeah.
94 is better
That
than Mario
game
Land, Mario Land 2.
Is better than a lot of Mario platforms.
I totally agree.
But it's
Donkey Kong 94 is fantastic. Thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, it's the Mario's more prolific, and as a result, there's kind of more venues he's gone into. I think Mario has a better tennis and golf game, but Donkey Kong has a better rhythm game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he always makes a mess of that weird factory.
I mean,
with
Donkey
the
Kong
boys.
taught us math, but Mario taught us typing. So really, where does it get down? I don't know. Mario.
And the debate goes on. No. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. All right. Well, that's our show this week. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. We are a weekly show on IGN, and you can find us on YouTube and any of your favorite podcasting services out there. So definitely make sure you're subscribed. My name is Philip Mewson. You can follow me on Twitter at Philip Mewson. Damon, where can people find you at?
on Twitter at Dame0.
Cool. And Brian, where can people find you at?
On Twitter at Agent Bizzle.
And Max?
Max Scoville.
Cool. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.